Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 5. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. Dave, Steelers have the day off after 5 straight practices. They'll be back on the practice field Tuesday through Thursday, and it is officially game week ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason opener on Saturday. So we are just less than 1 week away from kickoff. Dave, how you doing?
Happy Monday. We made it, or you made it, or all of us made it. Obviously through the one of the toughest, the annual toughest stretch of training camp there. And, you know, with having the first one, I guess, kind of rained out where they went inside last Tuesday or whatnot. But the vigorous week of training camp is now over. For the most part, they're a fairly healthy team, especially when you look around the league and what's happened to some of these other teams. Obviously not through this thing and have 3 preseason games to go on top of it. But as you mentioned, the first preseason game we're getting ramped up for, excited about on Saturday against the Jaguars. And it'll be interesting to see if Mike Tomlin, when that first press conference is, see if he tries to simulate a normal week and thus have one on Tuesday, I would imagine, and then we'll start ramping up from there. And we're already talking about, can't wait to get a hold of the all 22 of the first game here to analyze that. I already looked a little bit at the all 22 of the Hall of Fame game to start getting my process back in tune. And we'll of course be charting everything that goes along with that. And it's an exciting. The preseason is one of my favorite times, and that's why I get so aggravated when I start thinking about, in the future of, man, it's probably going to start clicking down the number of games and all. But that's a rant for another day. I guess we got some housekeeping to get to first and foremost here.
Yeah, let's talk about the health of the team. And as you said, overall, for 5 practices, a couple of those in pads, pretty intense day. Sunday, team seems to be in a decent spot overall. Some notable players injured who did not practice, or at least we presume to be injured. Yesterday, left tackle Gareth Warren, wide receiver Calvin Austin, cornerbacks Cory Trice Jr., Dante Kent, Joey Porter Jr., offensive tackle Calvin Anderson, defensive lineman Asazi Otomewa. And yesterday, according to Mike Tomlin, one in-practice injury. That was Alex Highsmith with a groin tweak that happened very late in practice. And as we talked about in the recap show yesterday, Dave, Highsmith and groin injuries have become pretty common, including a groin injury just about 1 year ago last year in training camp that lingered into the regular season and cost him some time. So Porter seems to be working his way back. Same with Otomewa. Kent's in a boot. Trice with the hamstring. More injuries for him. Austin, not sure. Seems minor overall. Calvin Anderson could be some time as well. Warren, we just don't know on him. So that's kind of a lay of the land. Highsmith, Trice, Kent, Anderson, the big injuries to talk about.
Yeah, and today being the day off, it'll be interesting when that NFL transaction sheet is released at 5 o'clock Eastern on Monday to see if this team brings in, say, any cornerbacks, maybe an outside linebacker, maybe a tackle with both Gareth Warren and Calvin Anderson banged up now to see maybe if that's a preview ahead of Tuesday's practice of maybe somebody or a couple of players being signed to help fill in some of those holes there. So when we talked yesterday or last night about Alex Highsmith, they better be real careful with him. Obviously a key starter on the defensive side of the football that he missed 3 games last season with a groin injury, and then I think about a little bit later in the season, 3 more with an ankle there. And then you go back, I think it was 2021, he missed a game with a groin on top of there. So hopefully they're going to be real careful with him. Hopefully it's not serious like a tear or anything that needs surgery or anything like that. But I would expect them to be real cautious with Alex Highsmith, and we'll obviously have to wait and see how long Calvin Anderson's sideline, and obviously that's a big blow with him being the next man up. Obviously they got Broderick Jones just back into the fold full time now, and Gareth Warren has been taking some snaps at tackle as well too. So, and then you talk about guys like Joey Porter Jr., and hopefully he is indeed, like you stated, close to returning. And you hate to see a young guy like Dante Kent missing time, because we all know how important training camp is to these rookies. So that's not a great development with him so far. So, but I guess, like I said, when you excuse me, when you compare what's going on around the league, and you still have a couple of weeks to go, 5 weeks to go until the regular season starts. Anything can happen here, but it could be worse, I guess, is what I'm stating at this point when it comes to the health of the team. And we'll just have to watch the developments moving forward here with a few of these guys.
Especially given the physical nature of these practices. I mean, they were hitting in 3 different periods yesterday, the 7 shots, the second team run period, and then goal line, and actually maybe even another team period too. They were doing some tackling as well. So Pittsburgh is as physical as it gets, and frankly, does not seem to put them at higher risk for injuries compared to other teams. So it kind of proves Tomlin's theory of the case that go out there, tackle, get ready for week 1, and you're not really risking additional injuries that other teams may not suffer. Other teams seems to suffer injuries just as much, if not more, than Pittsburgh. With Highsmith, I mean, just shut this guy down for a while, even if it's minor. There's no need for him to play really at all in the preseason, maybe the tune-up game, but I'm okay with him basically missing the rest of training camp to get fully healthy, because you do not want to repeat of last year where you get in the regular season, he tweaks it again. He's only missed about a week last year. Maybe that was coming back a little too soon, all things considered, so I'm okay with taking next 2 weeks off, get out there, 1 preseason game, make sure he's good for week 1. With Trice, Dave, and we talked about it some, but man, the injury bug for this guy, it is just a laundry list of them. Even just in his NFL career alone, torn ACL his rookie season, hamstring injury cost him a good chunk of the season last year. Now a hamstring injury that'll probably keep him out for some amount of time. The talent's been there. He's had a good camp when he's healthy, but he got through 2 padded practices, barely even that, and then hurt. I don't know. It just seems like that's going to be the story of Cory Trice Jr.
Yeah, and Omar Khan said at some point earlier in the offseason, they like the guy, but he's just got to make sure he stays on the field, and obviously missing through a couple of practices so far. Feels like a few more he's headed for as well, too. He needs this preseason for sure. Alex Highsmith, I was just looking back at last year's preseason. He did not play last year during the preseason at all. So probably wouldn't be surprising if that happens with him. What did Cory Trice do? I know Cory Trice played quite a bit.
Yeah, he
during
was
the
healthy
preseason.
all last summer.
Yeah. He
So I assume
played
he played a lot.
80, including special team snaps. Cory played 80 total snaps during the 3 preseason games last year. So keep your fingers crossed he'll be able to work himself back quickly here.
Yeah, remember he was in that ramp up period at the start of last summer, coming off that torn ACL. So he was getting full reps this year. Would have probably played more than 80 snaps had he been healthy. Right now, you're just hoping he gets back before the summer wraps up. I know, Dave, you live vicariously through my notes and tweets and the stuff out there on Twitter, other local beat writers, some of the video that gets leaked out. But what would you say is the biggest need for this team in terms of adding a position, adding help by roster cutdowns?
Yeah, it's got to be tackle right now. It's got to be the depth of the tackles, because even if Calvin Anderson was 100% healthy at this point, you do have your questions about him based on just the limited amount of time that we've seen him in a Steelers uniform last season, and the previous parts of his careers elsewhere there. So I and Dylan Cook, I know you go back into ahead of last year's preseason and all, and how high we were, or at least looking forward to Dylan Cook and thinking there might be something there. But here we are now at this stage of his career, and he's yet to play an NFL regular season snap. And Spencer Anderson's more of a guard now. We know that at this point, and really am. And look, we like we had stated, the depth of this whole unit overall is something. When you're talking about a guy like Ryan McCollum really being, the most exciting or most established backup position, for the offensive line, that tells you a lot. I think overall about the depth of this offensive line, but it certainly does feel like tackle should be the outside piece that they're looking around the league at once preseason gets going to potentially add. It doesn't feel like it would be hard to upgrade. It might not be a supreme name or anything like that, but just when you look one for one at just Dylan Cook and or Calvin Anderson, how hard is it really to get an upgrade over one of those two, I think, at this point, especially if it is a veteran. I ran through my head last night just because he tweeted himself about something, and I think a picture of him and another offensive lineman. How safe is Beachum with the Cardinals at this point of the offseason and all? They've got obviously another couple of tackles over there. Beachum's real cheap, re-signed with the Cardinals during the offseason. I wonder how expendable Kelvin Beachum is with the Cardinals, and if that would be something the Steelers would consider.
I don't know. I know they have some high first-round picks over there in Arizona at tackle, but I assume they're going to like Beacham's depth. They thought enough to re-sign him, so I don't know what the whole situation is, but I'm going to imagine he's sitting inside that Cardinals bubble right now. But I agree. I think offensive tackle, offensive line, we sounded that alarm before training camp, and it has not changed, 10 days into training camp.
Let's see. It looks like they got obviously Paris Johnson Jr. over there at left tackle. Who's their right tackle going to be? Jonah Williams. They've got penciled in here. Looks like they've got Beachum and Christian Jones. Yeah, they're probably going to be wanting to go forward with Kelvin Beachum on that roster. They're looking at their complete depth chart at this point. Christian Jones is a 5th rounder in 2024, and the fact that they got Jonah Williams penciled in as a starter probably tells you a lot as well too. So they might be another team looking for tackle depth later on throughout this offseason here. And I don't have
30 others because tackle depth is so hard to find.
Yeah, and you even saw, who was it? The Cowboys just Collins. They just or somebody just signed.
Yeah, Cowboys Leo Collins
signed back with them. So you get to the point where those kind of guys are even on rosters at this point.
I haven't done a deep dive into this. I put down a couple names for a post the other day talking about the need to potentially add a veteran tackle, and I mentioned, I think, the Cleveland Browns Jackson Barton. George Fant is still a free agent out there. A couple others I'd mentioned as well. Here's an idea, and I don't love any of these. None of these are good suggestions when you're desperate for offensive line help in August. There aren't good solutions out there. Is a reunion with Chukwuma Okorafor possible? I know that it ended really sour in Pittsburgh, getting benched for some comments he apparently made, I guess, to Mike Tomlin. And then he was in New England for a hot minute last year, retired, and then unretired, picked up by the Jets. If you're desperate for help, you know him. He can play both tackle spots. Is that the worst idea in the world?
It's not the worst. You do kind of wonder about how it ended and all like that. Mm-hmm. And really, how at this point, how much he really wants to play football.
He came back. He unretired, so I guess there's some desire there.
Is he still on their reserve retired list?
I hadn't checked the list. I thought he got signed, so I don't think he was on he's not on the Patriots list because that's where he retired, and then he came back. So I don't know what he's been doing in training camp. I tried to find some notes just very, very briefly, and I didn't really see a whole lot out there, but he's back in the NFL, so I assume he's practicing.
I guess Zach Banner available, and how much of an upgrade would that be over a guy like Calvin Anderson if he's healthy? It's probably not that much of an upgrade either.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Banner was interesting. He was back in the UFL, back healthy, but that was more of a training camp. You had him in before camp and just kind of see what he can do. And Anderson, in all likelihood, probably will still be your number 3 tackle, but that assumes he's healthy enough to be in that position. And we don't know the extent of the injury right now and how much time he's going to miss. Mike Tomlin suggesting it's more than day to day. So that could mean a week, could mean a month. We really don't have information there. He got hurt on a Friday night.
I guess what you look at maybe is some of these 5th, 6th, 7th round tackles across the league potentially that were drafted either last year or this year that maybe you had eyes on, that watch them during the preseason and maybe see if any of those guys are an upgrade too. That could end up being a possibility.
The pro scouting department, Sheldon White and Company, will be hard at work this summer. How about receiver, Dave? What are your thoughts on receiver? More than a week into training camp, DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, that connection has heated up, but everything else has felt pretty quiet. Austin, currently injured, made a couple plays with Rodgers early on, but it's been relatively quiet. Roman Wilson, even quieter, just not a whole lot. He's been healthy, he's been working every day, and that's good. He's had the occasional moment, but I'm putting together my stats, and the numbers I know are not going to be good for Roman Wilson getting involved in team period. And then behind that, it's Skoranek, Scotty Miller, Robert Woods. There's certainly some questions there that still remain about receiver.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from diving us down into 20 minutes on Terry McLaurin and all like that, because I just don't think that's going to ultimately happen. I just think that they're going to get him re-signed over there. And outside of that, we can continue having the Gabe Davis conversation and all to see what maybe ultimately happens with him. But also, you're talking about a new quarterback and new wide receivers that it is, and how long it takes to get on the same page. And they're not even there yet with all of those guys. And then you're going to bring an outsider in. I think there's been talk about who is Amari Cooper still unsigned?
He still is, and he's not retired. It's
Right.
a fake post, I think, that's out there, so he's still a free agent.
So I suppose that could potentially be, an option there for you. Look, I mean, you're only going to probably end up keeping 5 wide receivers, right? Unless you're going to cut from another group somehow, some way. And we're already talking about Robert Woods potentially not making this roster. So, and one of these guys that probably makes it might be Ben Skoranek, who's more of a special teamer. So that leaves you with obviously DK, Calvin Austin, Skoranek, maybe a Scotty Miller, and then Roman Wilson, of course. So that could potentially be your 5, unless you're going to keep one more. And will that one more be a Robert Woods or someone else around the league? Or maybe you got the young kid in Rock Taylor, but it's hard to expect him to come in and contribute right off the bat as a rookie.
He looks the part, but he's got a lot more work to do to even make the team, let alone have a role offensively. Got to do it inside stadiums and got to stack some really good days going forward. But he's flashed this practice squad material there. I think this thing's setting up to be that more classic Arthur Smith offense where that number 1 receiver has a lot of productivity. The other guys tend not to. I mean, Austin, I think, will still make some plays and put up some good numbers, probably similar to last year, maybe an increase overall. But then beyond that, it might get pretty thin. At least as things stand currently, which is basically what happened in Pittsburgh last year. Pickens your number 1. Your tight ends caught a lot of passes. Obviously, Pittsburgh will lean on their tight ends heavily this year. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, the interesting things they're doing with them. But I think the thought right now is DK's your number 1. Austin will make some splash plays, rely on your tight ends, run the ball well. The other receivers, don't expect a whole lot right now out of them production-wise.
Yeah, we when we did that exercise not too long ago, that was kind of the thoughts there. Was 2020 the last year of Arthur Smith in Tennessee?
Yes.
Let's see, 2021, he was with Atlanta, right?
That was his first year there. Yep.
Right. So 2019 and 2020, I think, were the two. And what was the better year of the two for them? Was it 2020 with
I think both were pretty good. I don't remember which was better. The Tannehill comeback of the player year. I don't know if that was 19 or 20. I think 19.
All right, in 2020, Tannehill had 33 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions, completed 65.5% of his passes, and even though he did it, his leading receiver was obviously Brown. 70 catches, led the team at 70 catches, 1,075 yards. And that says a lot on 70 catches to hit 1,000 yards. He had a 15.4 average per reception. He did have 11 touchdowns. And then who was it? Davis. Which one was that? Corey Davis.
Corey Davis.
65 receptions, was the second leading receiver for 984 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then Jonnu Smith was the third leading pass catcher on the team with 41 catches, 448 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And from there, it went Frisker, Humphreys, and then Derrick Henry had just 19 catches.
That was the one year where the offense supported 2 wide receivers in Brown and Davis. Everything else has typically been one receiver. Think about Drake London in Atlanta, Pickens last year. So I think it's going to look more like the more recent Arthur Smith years than the Davis Brown big year in Tennessee.
All right. Needless to say, it's going to be hard to get some of these wide receivers up in the 40 reception mark, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Austin should get there, right about there, you would think. Everyone else, though, is going to be, I think, a far cry. At least as things stand today. Things can change, and injuries obviously can have an impact dramatically on stats. But Roman Wilson, it's been, I just used the phrase quiet. I don't want to say it's been bad, because it's not like he's had drop passes or anything that has visibly looked discouraging, but it's just been nondescript. It's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, you do kind of wonder if they can get more receptions out of their running backs than Arthur Smith was able to do in 2020, because Henry led the team with 19. Jeremy McNichols, I think, was the second leading running back on the team with 12, and then it kind of everything else is under 10 for any other back that got receptions in that offense.
Well, how many carries did Henry have that season? They ran the ball.
Oh, yeah, 378 times, 2,027 yards. So they were definitely a running, they definitely ran the snot out of the football.
I mean, running backs caught a lot of passes in Pittsburgh last year. Rodgers has a quick release, one of the fastest snap-to-throw times. Running backs caught a lot of passes with the Jets last year. Breece Hall, the rookie they had there, Allen. So I think running backs are going to catch their fair share of 70-plus total receptions probably in 2025.
All right. But going back to the overarching thought, tackle and wide receiver, obviously the biggest need. Barring injury, it's kind of hard to imagine them doing something at the wide receiver position. I think tackle would be the most likely leading up to week 1 as an addition. How are they at guard? I mean, they probably think that they feel pretty good at guard overall. Sayamalo, Mason McCormick.
But what is your depth? What is your depth?
Yeah, I mean, you got the other Anderson, but he obviously isn't premier. Sharping. Then beyond that's pretty much it.
I think you got to look at offensive line. Tackle gets the focus, and I've talked about that probably more than guard. But yeah, even guard itself. There is Spencer Anderson, spot starter. He can get you through a game, but I really don't want a whole lot more than that, at least from what I've seen right now. He is versatile. He can play basically everything in a pinch if he had to, including both tackle spots. But the talent, the quality of the play, he got replaced last year by McCormick after Sayamalu's pre-regular season injury. So I don't know. The O-line depth is still pretty shaky.
Uh-huh.
Let's move inward, though, from receiver to tight end and talk about Darnell Washington, who's had a really couple strong practices, Dave. Pittsburgh really having fun with their tight ends, a strength of this offense. It has struggled overall in training camp, but interesting commentary with Washington the other day, speaking to reporters, asked about would he ever consider making that switch to offensive tackle, given how big he is, given that he looks like an offensive tackle on the field, and he kept that door open and said he would consider that down the road. Now, that's a far and away conversation. To my knowledge, no plans to make him a tackle now or anytime soon, but interesting comment for a franchise that's done that way back when with Larry Brown, who was a tight end who kicked in the offensive tackle and had a successful career at both positions. So what are your thoughts on that, Dave?
Well, first and foremost, I think if you ever got in a pinch in a game where you lost multiple offensive linemen and you needed someone to come in to play tackle, I think Darnell could get you out of a game. And but any conversation about him moving to tackle beyond that, has to happen after this season, because they obviously consider him tight end and one of their key blocking tight ends, if not their best blocking tight end on the roster right now. Here's one thing that you could still do, though, and I expect we'll see it a bunch this year, is you could offset. You could have a lot of offset formations here where Darnell essentially is lined up as a tackle on one end, and you shift your other starting tackle over to the other side and go heavy tackle on the other side. I expect that we're going to see that more than just a few times this year. So you're going to see Darnell obviously attached to the line of scrimmage, whether it is as a true tight end or as an opposite tackle in offset situations. I expect that we're going to see that. So, I mean, essentially he's going to be, an end of the line type guy for you regardless. So, and you need to maximize that because he does seem to be having a good camp, and he had a good season last year in the blocking department, and you expect him to take another step forward here. But as far as full-time tackle, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, the conversation in one sense is a bit silly because it's not happening now. Even if Broderick Jones struggles, they're not going to make Darnell Washington a tackle. You can't pick that up here in a month before the season and beat out veterans like Calvin Anderson and even guys who have done it for several years in practice like Dylan Cook or any other outside veteran addition. But it's just interesting to hear him open about it and, acknowledging that could be a possibility down the road. He's going to be used in pass protection a lot. He was used there a ton last year and did well blocking defensive end solo. Remember a clip against Matthew Judon in week 1 and holding his own against him. Seen it in training camp too. You're right. They have shown that unbalanced look at least once. I saw in warmups one day, probably day 5 of training camp, day 6. So probably it's in the playbook. How much they use it, we'll see. Um, I get the thought and inclination to move Washington inside the tackle at some point, but I also really like having this big tight end that just overwhelms these edge guys and these smaller people and really creates problems on the perimeter. And if you move Washington to tackle, A, you don't know exactly how he's going to do, and then B, you're going to find that blocking tight end. So you're kind of creating some extra problems for yourself. So I don't know. I kind of like how that uniqueness of Washington at tight end, and then he can still offer something in the pass game. He's shown really good hands, and he's a build-up speed runner. He's got to get a runway, but whenever he does, there is some athleticism, some burst and breakaway ability in terms of his route running at the top of his route. Some of these 7 routes he's run, he's really gained space on at the top of his break. So it takes a while to get going, but once he does, this guy can move. So I don't have a real big appetite to move him inside the tackle right now, but it's interesting to hear him acknowledge and be open to that at some point, maybe down the road.
Look, we could very easily at the end of this season, especially if things go right, we could be talking about Darnell Washington being the top 1, 2, or 3, true blocking tight end in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know what the list of that would be. I mean, Kittle's up there. Oliver in Minnesota, I think, is up there. But I think Washington's going to be in that conversation if he's not already. Just simply the size alone makes him interesting and an asset. But his technique really improved. His snap timing improved last year. They used him in pass protection a lot more. This is a guy that whenever Pittsburgh plays the Browns in the regular season, he's got to be out there to help chip and protect Aaron Rodgers and Myles Garrett and give Broderick Jones that kind of help. I mean, that's a guy who's really got to be used in that role in those moments to slow down a guy like Garrett. So hopefully we're talking about Washington does not need to move to tackle because the current tackles are playing so well. There's no need there with Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. But again, just interesting comment because most guys will just dismiss that comment and say, I'm not thinking about that or I don't want to do that. Washington acknowledging maybe down the road that could happen. And given Pittsburgh's history with Larry Brown, makes that interesting connection.
Right. And, Alejandro Villanueva, when he came out of Army or when he was at Army, was a tight end, and they bulked him up and all. But I do think that's a conversation, hopefully, that we're not having for several reasons for a couple more years.
Speaking of position changes, just a little dabbling yesterday for Mark Robinson, usually an inside linebacker, playing a couple reps at fullback during the team's goal line session. Mike Tomlin downplaying it, saying a couple of reps there, don't make too much out of it. We saw Kendrick Green with the fullback experiment a couple of years ago. That did nothing to save his career. Robinson, though, a little more established in terms of his path to make the roster on special teams, but the more you can do, the better. And yesterday, that included playing fullback.
Yeah, and obviously he had the history going back playing running back in college there. Did you listen to his post-practice media scrum?
I did. I'm trying to recall
There
what he
wasn't much
said.
there, and props to him. He's a no nonsense guy. Very short answers, and I got tickled just because they thought they were going to get a lot of information out of him. And obviously he was a hot topic because that happened late in practice, and I don't think they've talked to him at least in any of these larger scrums since camp. It was there's nothing there, and I enjoyed it. It was very just because look, the guy knows he's up against it this offseason and making a roster and all. I'll say this: if there's one defensive guy that I don't mind seeing going the other way, just because of the way he plays north south, and the physicality of it, it is Mark Robinson. But you do wonder how much you would actually go. It would be probably more of a goal line situation if you did roll something like that out there, or a short yardage situation where just get a helmet on a guy in the middle of the line there and push him a yard or two the other direction, and let's get the first down or the touchdown here. So they don't do these things without some sort of reason. And he was asked, did he know they were going to have a white 93 jersey out there? And he said, yeah, he knew. And, obviously it was a plan to kind of get a look at him within that. So the fact that they did look at him in that means something. But I'm also not surprised that Mike Tomlin downplayed that kind of stuff, because even if you do get into a situation where you use him in that role, it's going to be few and far between.
Yeah, it just maybe speaks to this team still looking for that fullback, some desire for it. I know I mentioned DJ Thomas Jones as a potential sleeper. He has not played any fullback. Now, granted, he's been hurt most of this time, but he was practicing yesterday, not getting fullback reps. It was Mark Robinson and Connor Hayward getting those opportunities. So probably goes my theory on Thomas Jones making the 53-man roster. I made the comparison a couple shows back to Landon Roberts of could Robinson play that Roberts role. And remember, Roberts played fullback briefly in New England too. He caught a long touchdown pass, and so there's a lot of parallels, I think, between Mark Robinson and Landon Roberts. Their intensity, their physicality, their run defense, the special teams value, and now even Robinson dabbling at fullback. So, what does it mean? Probably not a ton. The more you can do, the better. Still battling Carson Bruner for a spot. I had Robinson off my pre-training camp roster prediction. If I were to make it right now, Robinson would squarely be on it ahead of Carson Bruner. He's gotten more reps. He's played well. Could that change? Bruner will get in the stadiums and show what he can do on special teams, and there's an extensive background there. But Robinson, of course, is pretty established, and so I think they like the mentality, the demeanor, and I think he's now inside the bubble.
And also, Les Bruner just absolutely lights it up on special teams during the preseason. He's going to be an easy guy to get to the practice squad if you so desire that. And then on top of it, you could call him up. You could activate him as a game day elevation should the need arise. So I'm with you. I think at this point right now, Mark Robinson is back inside the bubble. I think I had him. I think I had Robinson off my initial 53 and on the practice squad. So I would flip those two guys going into this first preseason game, have Bruner on the practice squad, have Mark Robinson as the fifth inside linebacker, because he is so good on special teams and made a mark. What do you have? 2 forced fumbles, I think, last year, and a handful of tackles on top of it there. So, and then plus, if you desire, you could use him in a fullback role there. How about could we might see some DeMarvin Leal in a white jersey here? Would that be a potential white jersey guy in a few more practices here?
I like the thought. That's interesting. I don't know if he's as physical and dogged as a Mark Robinson is, but he's athletic. It'd be fun to maybe throw him a pass or two. So that's a good thought. I like that.
All right. But beyond that, Leal's just an interesting conversation altogether, because this is another guy that has to stay healthy, has had problems with that, and then just his overall fit. I think you've noted he's mostly been considered an outside linebacker with this team, but in a pinch, you could probably put him, in some sub-package situations as a pass rusher. And you could obviously, I think you've noted quite a bit that they've been using him on the kickoff return team as a guy there. So, he's another guy that I think you watch moving forward here. This is a guy that I think both of us maybe thought would be off the 53-man roster initially that could end up for whatever reason on it.
And he still may be off it, but there's certainly a case I think he's trying to make to be on it. It's been a good camp. He's shown his athleticism. He's been physical. His run defense has been good. He chases really hard after the football. The number of plays he's run now, number of times he's run with a Jalen Warren or a running back that's sprinted to the end zone to finish a rep in team period. He's just doing all the right things. He's been healthy overall. Even played a little bit of down lineman whenever the lines got really thin with all the injuries there to Lowry and Slade and Oto Maywa, but mostly at outside linebacker. So how does he make the team? You got your 4 outside backers ahead of him. You think you got 5 inside linebackers, Robinson being that 5th. Holcomb looks like he's going to make this team. I don't know how it works, but from a talent standpoint, if you were to keep the best 53, if I listed out who are your top 53 players in a roster without giving consideration to position, which I know is not exactly how it works, but just for an exercise, Liao probably making that top 53. Could he still be a trade candidate? Could you get a 6th, 7th round pick for this guy if he has a good summer to a team that might have a better use and a better scheme for him? We'll see, but just interesting to note Liao's camp.
All right, who else are some interesting conversations right now? We've had quite a few talks about Robert Woods, how neither one of us would write his name down in pen on the 53 right now. Is there anybody else that maybe we have on the 53 or close to the 53 that's making some noise?
That's making noise that we had on the 53. I don't know that.
Or not making enough noise.
Well, we both had Oto Maywa on our defensive line group, and we were just kind of throwing darts to give a name there. With his injury, that's going to impact things now. He looks like he's close to a return, maybe gets back out there Tuesday in some form or fashion, so that's good news. But who your defensive lineman kind of ran through this exercise the other day, your top 3, I think Equality makes it behind. Y.A. Black probably makes it too. Then you got Loudermilk and Lee and whatever you want to consider Liao and Oto Maywa. You've had some injuries there. You lost Dean Lowry from the conversation. Now Fajoko's been brought back. He's been a practice squatter, kind of a bubble guy, almost a quad A, minor league players, the phrase there. Not good enough for the majors, too good for the minors. So that battle's still raging on.
Right. I can't remember if I had Oto Maywa on.
You did.
I did have him on my 53.
Yeah.
Let's see. If I kept 6 right now, it would obviously be Harmon, Hayward, Keanu Benton, Quale, that's 4, Loudermilk 5. I don't know. I probably would go. I might go Logan Lee as a 6 now.
You had Y.A. Black and Oto Maywa as your backup.
Black would definitely be in there.
Okay, so that'd be number 6. If you kept the 7th, would you go Oto Maywa? Would you go Lee, Fajoko?
I'd probably go Lee.
Lee, okay. I don't know. I mean, he's had some good practices, so we'll see. He's back now playing defensive end after they re-signed Dominique Davis, so I do like Lee playing D-end a whole lot more than I like him playing nose tackle, which he was briefly in training camp this year and did last year. And then Black's playing defensive end too. So I think he's had a nice camp.
All right. I'm trying to think if there's any other position groups.
I mean, corner's gotten shaken up with the injuries there. Trice with now his unknown future and Kent being hurt. I think.
I think I'd have, and I did not have Beanie Bishop on my initial 53. Right. So with Trice being injured and all, I would rethink that. I would put Beanie back on and probably have Trice to the practice squad right now.
And then at safety, Chuck Clark was signed after training camp. We both had some other. Actually, I only had 3 safeties. You had Quindell Johnson as your 4th safety. Would you swap him out for Chuck Clark right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I would too. Well, I wouldn't swap it out. I would add Clark on. I'd have to figure out something at corner. Probably just remove Trice until he shows he's healthy enough to compete. I mean, Trice could come back this summer, but it just I don't know. We'll just see where that injury takes him and the team. But that's kind of a lay of the land right now.
I can't remember if I had Sharping in there on my 53 of offensive linemen. But
I can read it off to you. I got it pulled
up. All right. Who are my offensive linemen I kept?
Sure. You had your starting five. Won't read all the names. You guys know them. Your backup: Spencer Anderson, Calvin Anderson, Dylan Cook, and Ryan McCullum were your other 4 for 9. Make any changes there?
Man. That's a tough one. I wonder how much. One thing to watch is how much guard work maybe Dylan Cook gets, if any, during the preseason. We've seen him there before.
2 years ago. So far, none this year.
All right.
And Parker's the tackles keep getting hurt, so he's had to play a lot of left tackle and right tackle.
So I guess the question I would have there is, would I keep the extra tackle in Cook, or keep an extra interior guy in Sharping, knowing that this team, at least in their format now, might try to have the other Spencer Anderson play tackle in a pinch.
Yeah, I think it's all to be determined. Let the summer play things out. I think right now Cook and Sharping are kind of running neck and neck for one of those final spots.
All right.
Let's talk about something interesting yesterday, Dave. Pittsburgh, and they'd done this in training camp a little bit before, but 4 tight end personnel, 14 personnel on the goal line. They spread the field out in a goal line drill, and then Rodgers threw a jump ball touchdown to Darnell Washington. Now, the defense won the goal line sessions overall, but that particular play was the highlight for the offense. I think it's a really interesting thought, and really is the dream of Arthur Smith turned reality. Wrote about that this morning for Steelers Depot. Not just the idea of using 4 tight ends, but the challenges it creates for a defense.
Right.
You come out there, you see 14 personnel on the goal line, you're thinking, oh man, it's going to be a big run package. They're going to pound the rock, and they come out, they spread out the field, and they force linebackers to displace and run down guys to cover and play on tight ends in coverage. And you see the advantage that gives the offense there. I think it's a really cool wrinkle that should be used. That should be leaned on, not to use all the time, but more than just the very rare one-off goal line play. This is something I think that Pittsburgh could really have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, look, you can use that 1st and 10 from your own 25-yard line occasionally as well, too. In fact, you can use it a lot in some first down type situations to see what the opposition. You ought to be using it early in the games just to see how other teams respond to it. So when you get in past halftime, you can make whatever adjustments that teams have rolled out against that in the first half. And you ought to be willing to audible and either constrict down or spread out based on the opposing package that you see on the other side of football there. So that's got me excited, boy. And you're not going to be able to do that unless you have a healthy Jonnu Smith. You talk about key guys on both sides of the football that this team obviously can't afford to lose. Starts first and foremost with quarterback Aaron Rodgers. That's a given there. But beyond that, I think Jonnu Smith is another virtual chess piece that you can't stand to lose for whatever reason. And then Ramsey on the other side of the football, just as how much they are going to move that guy around and how that's going to allow them to be multiple there. But back to the point of the 3 and sometimes 4 tight ends, sign me up for it, man. I've been looking forward to kind of this stuff for several years now, because you can definitely split out guys like Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth, and heck, even if you occasionally maybe even undetach Darnell Washington if you get the right matchup and all. So yeah, sign me up for that kind of stuff. I look forward to watching that, not only in the goal line and short yardage situations, but an occasional first or second down as well.
Yeah, because you can call a run play and a pass play, and if the defense responds heavy, then spread things out and go to your pass play. If they come out and they try to play some sort of big nickel to try to match up against your athletic tight ends, like Pittsburgh has done in the past, then you can call your run and keep things tight and run the ball at will downhill. So I think it just really makes life tough on defenses to know how they want to respond with their big people or some sort of coverage people, not knowing what Pittsburgh's plan is. You can even have fun with that other skill player. Yesterday it was Kenneth Gainwell, so it was 14 personnel, 1 running back and 4 tight ends. But could you do true 0-4 personnel, which is no running backs, 4 tight ends, and 1 receiver? That receiver, of course, being DK Metcalf. So now you got to defend Freiermuth and Smith and Washington and Hayward and DK Metcalf. And heck, you could still run the ball out of those situations too with Jonnu Smith. He's had a couple carries. He's had a couple carries in training camp. So it really gives you a being multiple as an offense, and that's really fun and refreshing. And I don't want to make too much out of it because we're not going to see this 200 snaps this year, but I want to see it more than 2 snaps this year.
Right. Agreed.
All right, Dave, where to from here? What are your thoughts on this offense overall? Really struggling, the defense besting this offense pretty consistently. I would say the offense has only convincingly won one day of training camp so far. I think that was the Thursday practice, the day after the first day in pads. Otherwise, the defense has won basically every day. Of course, this defense has a lot invested into it, has a lot of talent. You expect this defense to be one of the best units in football. So is that just as expected, the defense playing well, or should there be concerns about this offense?
Look, you're halfway through training camp right now, and you've got a new quarterback, and you've got a lot of new pieces on offense. You'd obviously would like to see them a little bit further ahead than what they are, but Mike Tomlin said he's not overly concerned at this point because defenses usually make headway quicker than offenses. I do wish it was further along than what it was at this point, at least from what I'm reading and hearing from you and all. I do wonder how much this team's going to roll Aaron Rodgers and the first teamers out there during the preseason. Maybe not necessarily in the first preseason game, but in the final two, especially whatever game they deem as their warm-up game this year. Is that a unit that you want out there for full quarter and maybe even 2 full quarters, to make sure you get some clicking there. Last year, it was obviously couldn't see that a lot because of the Russell Wilson situation there. But long story short, they need to start getting on the train or being fully on the train in these final few days of training camp here, and this stuff's going to be busted up a little bit over the next couple of weeks as well too before they break camp, because you're going to have one day where you're really designated towards kind of installing whatever you're going to have installed for the Jaguars game, and then how much you're going to have Aaron Rodgers practicing against the Buccaneers, and that's kind of 2 practices right there that might be kind of throwaways there. So, at this point, especially this long week of practice that just ended, you wish you were hearing a little bit more positives than what you've heard at this point.
You talk about getting this train going. Sometimes this offense needs to get on the tracks. Just start there because they've really had some tough moments overall. I don't want to sound the alarm bells. It's probably too early for that. I do think that joint practice that'll take place 2 days after they break training camp against Tampa Bay right before their preseason game is going to be interesting, though, because you're seeing a different defense. And that kind of tells you, okay, is the offense really struggling, or is Pittsburgh just faced its own great defense throughout training camp, in these inter-practices every day? So a different defense, a different look, somebody who doesn't know your offense the way the Steelers defense knows Pittsburgh's offense and has gone against it every day since OTAs and knows the playbook overall. Second year for Arthur Smith, and so a little bit less new in terms of what he's trying to accomplish and what he likes to run in practice. You kind of wonder if those are elements too, of maybe reasons why the defense has had the upper hand. It's clearly talented, but you think about maybe those schematic advantages and just being so familiar. So I think you want to get Rodgers in that joint practice. You want to kind of treat that, as an evaluation, litmus test for where this offense is truly at.
And plus, too, the old conversation about how much do you really show during these scrimmages and preseason? How unvanilla are you?
Well, I think you can't be too vanilla. I mean, it's not going to be, you're not going to have the film from all the fans because it's going to be a close practice, and you're not playing Tampa Bay this year. So I think you're okay opening up your playbook some because you're not going to see Tampa Bay and it's not going to be shown to the world.
All right.
But yeah, the offense, you would like some good days this week. I know you're going to have a walkthrough probably on Thursday, so that's going to be a pretty low-key practice with not a whole lot to really evaluate there. But these Tuesday, Wednesday sessions, you would love for the offense to have at least one really good day.
All right. Agreed.
Any other takeaways, any other things of training camp that I might have missed with my head in my notes these last 10 days, Dave?
No, I feel overall, though, and it happens every year, just picking your brain on certain things. I've got a pretty good idea in my head about who's where at this point, what the rotations are likely to be, what to kind of look for with certain players, going into the first preseason game. So I feel a lot more up to date with a lot of the pre-camp questions that I had at certain position groups and all. So I don't have a lot of questions other than what I dig at after every practice and all. But I feel like I'm ready for this first preseason game at this point.
Who is the one player you want to watch the most in this first preseason game?
Yeah, Broderick Jones.
Okay.
Period. I
wonder
I really want to see him.
who might Tampa Bay play in that preseason game beyond the starters, because we'll assume those guys aren't going to play a ton, and if they do, then we'll talk about it then. They have Diaby. Who's it? Yaya Diaby. Is that the guy in Tampa Bay right now?
Let me pull up their depth chart real quick.
Just get an idea, maybe some of the matchups he'll be seeing.
They've got at left defensive end Logan Hall, right?
Yeah, he's a bigger guy. I want to see some of the speed guys.
Mike Green's over there. Is he going?
Mike Green?
Mike Green over there on defense for Tampa Bay. Jack. We're talking. No, it's another Mike Green.
There's two Mike Greens.
Yeah, this is the James Madison kid. I guess I should be looking at Jacksonville. Or no, you're talking about the scrimmage and all.
Yeah, I'm talking about the first preseason game, isn't it?
It's the Jaguars, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Well, okay. I'm getting myself all mixed up.
Yeah, because they played Tampa. I mean, they scrimmaged Tampa ahead of their second preseason game. All right, we threw each other off there.
Yeah, but both apply. We'll see Broderick Jones against Tampa Bay in the scrimmage. So but let's go to Jacksonville.
Let's go to the Jaguars. We got Trayvon Walker over there, so that's definitely going to be a matchup to watch at left defensive end versus Broderick Jones, and at the right defensive end you got the other Josh Hines Allen over there. So,
although I doubt he plays.
Okay, what about Trayvon Walker? Is he going to play?
I don't know for sure. Probably plays a little bit. That'll be interesting. They have Ogba as veteran behind.
And Dwayne Smoot, I think, is a backup left defensive end for them.
And I think Gardeck just got healthy. Dennis Gardeck's had a underrated career out there in Arizona and signed over in Jacksonville. So, yeah, that'll be – we'll see. We'll see the test for sure with Broderick Jones.
All right. But, I mean, that's one guy going into this first preseason game that they better get some snaps to, and we ought to be able to get a little tape on.
What about one new face, somebody who wasn't a Steeler last year? So it doesn't have to be a rookie, but somebody acquired this offseason. Who would you want to look at most of all?
I don't know how much we're going to see Ramsey in this first game, to be honest with you. Let's see, new and how much Jonnu Smith will depend on how much the first team gets out there. I'm interested to see Chuck Clark out there. Thornhill, I think is another one. Will be interesting to see on the defensive side of football. Let's see, Roman Wilson obviously has yet to play 5 offensive snaps and missed all of last preseason, so be interested to watch Roman Wilson get a lot of burn in this first preseason game. Rock Taylor's made some noise. I've already predicted a Will Howard to Rock Taylor touchdown during the preseason. So I think Galbraith is another one that's had a decent camp for the Steelers. So interested to see how he's going to get a lot of burn, you would think, in his first preseason game. Any offensive lineman, really, we're going to have the microscope on in this first preseason game. All of the rookies, it goes without saying, the Harmons, the Caleb Johnsons, Jack Sawyer. I mean, those guys will obviously be in our sights for the first preseason game. But yeah, I think that's a pretty healthy list.
Yeah, I think so. I think Y.A. Black's the guy I want to watch. A little more athletic, a little more juice than maybe I gave him credit for at Iowa. How does he look at defensive end, on his feet, defending some perimeter runs, containing the quarterback? These guys start scrambling around. He's certainly got heart and hustle to the football. How good is that foot speed? Truly, though, want to check on that. One veteran guy, Brandon Eccles, has had a nice training camp at corner, and with Trice going down especially, now Eccles, I think, was already running ahead of Trice and was next man up if there was an injury there, but now with Trice being shelved, that makes that picture all the more clear that Eccles is your top backup corner.
Let's see, how many guys did they sit, either be injury or just did not play first preseason game last year against the Texans? There was a healthy list. It was Russell Wilson, Patrick Queen, Chris Boswell, Roman Wilson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cole Holcomb, Alex Highsmith, Isaac Seumalo, Cordell Patterson, TJ Watt, Marcus Golden, Dean Lowry, Braden Fehoko, and Cameron Hayward were your did not play guys last year in the first preseason game.
Now, some of those were injuries, Russ, Roman, Fehoko, from the top of my head right now, but do you think Aaron Rodgers plays at all in this opener against Jacksonville?
That's a great question. I don't know. I do not know.
With how bad this offense has looked, I wonder if they want to try to get some extra reps to get a different look at the defense, just to kind of get like I said, that litmus test of, is it the Steelers defense being really good, or Pittsburgh's offense has the same struggles against somebody new that may have a little more foreboding thought there on the Steelers offense. So my first thought was no, because it's pretty traditional for the Stars to not play the opener. But if this offense doesn't have a couple of good practices, I think you get him out there for a series and kind of start gauging, okay, where is this offense truly at?
Do you think, Mike Tomlin's not going to give it all away, but do you think we'll get either a yes or no Aaron Rodgers will play?
That's a good question. I mean, he's usually been transparent to a degree about will a guy play or not, but with Rodgers, he might be a little coy. He might do because he always does.
Everyone healthy.
Right. He says that, then they don't end up doing it. Well, he ends up saying all healthy guys are, eligible to play, but then half the guys sit. Yeah. And, because Watt's not going to play, nor should Watt play. So I really don't know. Okay, let's put it, we'll find out. We don't know the answer. Do you want to see Aaron Rodgers play in the opener at all?
Short answer is yes.
How much do you want to see Rodgers play in the first team offense? Make those part and parcel.
I really would like to see him play 2 series, unless the first series goes 12 plays for a touchdown or something like that. I would like to see him out there for 2 series.
I agree. I'm with you 100%, Dave.
And whether or not we'll see that, I don't know. And I don't think we're going to get a good answer from Mike Tomlin on Tuesday, if indeed Tuesday's a press conference.
We'll find out in 6 days, for sure. All right, Dave, where to from here? Any other news? If not, and I should have mentioned top of the show, we will do a live stream tonight, Dave and I, to make up for the one we didn't do last week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Any other comments, feel free to jump in, Dave. If not, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's indeed get to some emails here. If I can pull it up real quick and see if we've got any here. Mike Shorter writes in, thank you guys for making me feel like I am at Latrobe. You guys do a really good job. Alex certainly does do a good job, Mike. Can you name an offensive and defensive player that is standing out to you? And are there any camp unknowns making a name for themselves at this point? We've covered a lot of this sort of today, but I will try to let's play Guess Alex's Answer. So he wants to know an offensive and defensive player that is standing out to you. I'm going to go on offense. Alex's answer will be Darnell Washington, and on defense, Alex's answer will be DeMarvin Leal.
Is he talking more sleeper or more just anybody?
Can you name an offensive and defensive player that is standing out to you?
Okay. Yeah, I would say offensively, I'll go Darnell Washington, especially with how the practices have picked up for him. It was maybe a quiet start, but he's really had some good practices, not just in backs on backers where he's dominated, but also as a receiver downfield. And then defensively, you have a long list of names there because a lot of guys have really been good. I'll show some love. Leal is certainly a candidate. I'll say Darius Slay. I know Ramsey gets talked about a ton.
I forgot Slay because you have talked about him.
He's had some really good days. He's been really competitive. The concerns about his foot speed and age, I mean, that's still valid. You're going to face Justin Jefferson. That's going to be some real tough matchups. The Bengals receivers, obviously, but I think Slay has not gotten a lot of credit because the defense has played so well. There's been so many guys dominating that Slay's kind of gotten forgot about with Ramsey and just the overall play of this defense. So I will go Darius Slay on defense.
All right, if this was a newlywed game, I'd be 1 for 2 right now. You remember who the host was of the newlywed game? You watched.
Oh,
you used to watch the game show channel.
Network. Yeah, he had the long microphone. Oh, what was his name? Radburn or something? What was his name?
No, Gene Rayburn was the match game. I'm talking about the newlywed game.
All right. Well, I'm in the ballpark.
I think it's Bob Eubanks, wasn't it?
I don't know. You're asking kind of the right guy, but also kind of the wrong guy.
Let me
These are the questions.
Let me Google that real quick. I want to say it was Bob Eubanks. I was right.
Okay.
All right. So he was the host of the newlywed game. That went on the air in 1966, 2 years before I was born. Okay, let's go. The other part of the question: any camp unknowns making a name for themselves at this point? So, I guess unknowns would. I mean, we kind of knew about Rock Taylor and had some conversation. Would you consider Rock Taylor an unknown?
I would. As a rookie, to you and I, yes, we know him. To some fans, yes, they know him. But if you ask 100 Steeler fans, who's Rock Taylor, tell me about Rock Taylor, they probably wouldn't get a lot. That's probably, it's certainly fair to call him an unknown. And that's probably one of the guys I would look towards, partially because there aren't a lot of other great options. I would also say J.J. Galbraith as the number one kind of unknown in that same undrafted rookie free agent bucket. It's maybe even a little bit quieter for Galbraith after a good start, but I think he's a guy that certainly has strong practice squad material. And defensively, I'm not sure. So
Castro had a good practice yesterday, right?
He did. It was the first time he kind of really popped on my notes. So I don't want to. One good practice is great, and you got to stack it. But I don't want to say it's probably too strong to be my answer there.
All right.
I mean, Liao's not an unknown, but kind of forgotten, even by me in some of our off-season conversations. I always would forget about kind of mentioning Liao, so that's probably not the best way to satisfy the question, but I think Liao would be an answer as one of those sleeper names, not getting a lot of buzz pre-camp that I think has had a good summer.
All right, I got another one here from our buddy Ollie Farang. That name should ring a bell. Ollie is over in Arizona over there, and he runs the Arizona Bowl over there, right? For starters, and he has a radio show that Alex and I pop up on over there and it's Spears and Alley over there in Tucson, that they cite a lot of our work, and good friends of the show. Heck, Ollie had me over there for the Arizona Bowl a couple of years ago up there in the suite and all like that. And that was definitely an experience. But Ollie writes in, my question is mainly for Alex. You have been to numerous training camps at St. Vincent. Are you able to compare the talent level of the various teams? From quarterback play and the offense to defense and special teams, are you to say generally where the collection of talent this year stacks up to what you witnessed in past years? He says, I know health is a variable, but taking that out of the equation, I always wonder whether after a week or so, if Alex is able to discern where the level of competition and talent stacks up against the last couple of years.
It's a really good question. It's hard to compare and to think back because you get colored by the regular season that ensued. Think back to 2023, the really good summer the offense had in the preseason and training camp. But it gets forgotten about because the regular season wasn't like that at all. I would just say this defense, and it's always hard to know, okay, is the offense being bad, is the defense being good, and vice versa. But this defensive group, this talent seems to be really at a peak that you haven't seen too often before. And how do things play out, and how do they communicate, and how do they look against other offenses, all to be determined. But I would say defensively, you're seeing a really stifling unit in every regard: run game, coverage, pressure, tackling, communication. It's been really, really strong across the board. Not a lot of negativity there, which usually in training camp there's more ebb and flow where the defense has some good days, the offense has some good days. They kind of trade off. you really haven't seen much of that. So offensively, you still like the collection of talent. I think there's something there, and maybe more than years past, but it's been harder to gauge because the results haven't been there right now. But defensively, this group has really, really been strong.
I believe Ollie also has ownership in the Tucson, who's it, the Skulls or something over there, the indoor football team and all like that. So look, if you're ever in the Tucson area, make sure you tune in to Spears and Ollie over there and go take in football game, indoor football game over there. Good to hear from you, Ollie, and I imagine he'll be having either one of us or both of us on before the season starts for segment over there on his station there. So good to hear from him. Let's see here. Nathan Casey writes in, I know the odds of a trade for another high-profile wide receiver in a multi-tight end run-heavy offense probably doesn't make a ton of sense, but their defense is super highly paid. Herbig is a potential star in the making, and they have Sawyer in the pipeline as well. Leal could be outside linebacker 4. If they traded Highsmith and Roman Wilson with no picks, would their offense be really deep and balanced, assuming their line can block, and they would also have their picks next year? So Nathan's one of those guys and the questions about Scary Terry over there in Washington. Look, I get it, Nathan. I get why people are still kind of wondering if that might be the case. I do think that the hardest obstacle here when it comes to trading for Terry McLaurin, if indeed Washington was to trade him, would be the compensation, because you'd either have to part with a player or two, such as maybe Highsmith and or Roman Wilson or both, especially if you want to maintain 2026 draft capital. And then the second thing obviously would be the cash more so than the cap. They can make all this work. Because look, whoever, if anybody, Terry's going to come out of this with a new deal. So you're going to have that cash. You probably have to guarantee the first 2 years of the deal. The Steelers salary cap situation could be worked around. But I think when you look at combined both the compensation along with, having to pay the additional cash, which would be, I would put them above and beyond where I have them projected to be, make this a very difficult thing. The rest of it, yeah, I mean, would Scary Terry make your offense better? I think unequivocally, yes. It would give you it essentially give you 2 number ones on that offense over there. And the thing is, though, is you're paying both those guys, DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin. You're going to want those guys on the field as much as possible. As well. I just think the probability is much lower than the plausibility, because I think it's plausible that you get something like that worked out. I just don't think the probability is there.
That's a good way to phrase it, plausibility versus probability. Pittsburgh won't be this knee-jerk, and nor should they be, but if this offense continues to struggle, especially with trying to find that second receiver, if Austin misses more time and Roman Wilson continues to be quiet, will this team feel an urgency to go add something at receiver? I mean, how do you not?
I mean, it feels like you better be looking for sure. I mean, throughout this entire process. But
what if DK Metcalf pulls a hamstring and misses 2 weeks? What do you do offensively as a pass game?
I don't know. I got a funny feeling Omar's sitting there saying, I like the team.
I mean, he said that publicly, but he said that a lot in the past, and then big moves have been made. I don't know. I think you still evaluate this offense. My stance was you evaluate what you have for a while, because no team's in decision. No one's cutting guys right now. No one's trading guys right now. Everyone's kind of evaluating their group in the preseason in the summer. But if
Jonnu Smith goes down?
Yeah.
That's why. Guys. That's why I said earlier in the show, man, you talk about 3 guys that you really can't afford to lose. I mean, it goes without saying DK Metcalf too, but, it could really change the scope of what you want to do offensively.
Right, for sure. I look at Metcalf as that big outside vertical threat that teams have to worry about, and to maybe taking some of the pressure off the box. But if you lose him the way that you lost Pickens last year, you're gonna have the same impact potentially. So you don't go out there and trade a second round pick and give McLaurin $90 million because of that. But do you start really looking at other options and seeing what you can get at receiver? I don't know, Romeo Dubs. I still will bang the table for Alec Pierce in Indianapolis. I know Khan seems hesitant to part way with those 2026 draft picks, but you might have to give up one to get a piece.
I tell you, Romeo Dubs is a guy that's still. What's his contract status? He'll be
It's a rookie deal.
Yeah, it's a rookie deal still. I can't remember if he's into.
I can look.
What
he signed? Yeah, last year of his rookie contract.
Didn't he get the performance escalator? Is his salary like $3 million something?
3.4.
Yeah, so he got the proven performance escalator right now. So yeah, I mean, you could easily absorb that salary if you traded for it. But what would you have to give up to get him? You know,
I don't know, the fourth, fifth.
It might be a little bit.
It's a
one-year deal. Yeah. So
but I mean, I assume he'd become a starting receiver for your team. I mean, he's had what's his production been? It's not.
And Aaron's used to working with him. Aaron likes him, and Aaron really likes him from my research of Aaron talking about him in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I know you want to be careful. Like, let's not do the get Aaron Rodgers friends in one place because that's not always worked out before. But I don't think this would exactly be that. And yeah, I think that's a name to watch. I think just the longer it goes on and the longer the offense struggles, even knowing how good this defense looks and can be, the more you might feel compelled to go get some help.
What's the Jet situation at wide receiver? Could Allen Lazard still be cut by them or anything?
Did he take a pay cut?
He's down to 2.25 base salary. I know that. And a guaranteed base, he's guaranteed 1.75. So they'd probably try to trade him for something instead of. Well, I don't know when that. When is that? I don't know when that. If they've already paid it, it looks like 1.75. Was that a signing bonus? He has 1.75 of his base salary is guaranteed, so that would transfer over then, unless they cut him outright.
What is Lazard giving you? You already have enough big bodies. I mean, I'm not 100%. I guess opposed to it. I get the Rodgers connection, but I don't know. I mean, I don't love that. It depends maybe on how Malachi Corley, their third-round pick from a year ago, does. He had a really quiet rookie season. If he develops, maybe they're more willing to trade Lazard. If he doesn't, they may hold on to a guy like Lazard.
All right. I'm just throwing out options there. So
Alec Pierce in Indy, like if Daniel Jones starts, not going to have the vertical game that they would with Richardson. Pierce is a big-time playmaker, downfield. It's a cheap contract. He's got size. He can block. I'm telling you, Alec Pierce is the guy.
All right. Maybe we'll continue. You've been banging the drum on that for quite a while there. All right, let's take one more. This is an interesting one from Brad Prentice. Writes in, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the Depot started as a fan site that grew. Has a lot of analysis now. It grew. Today you have film and statistical analysis that exceeds much of the regular media sources. Your pre-draft analysis beats anything found on traditional media sites, and you've grown tremendously in your ability to express your analysis. You guys are really to be commended, but I wonder if it's changed your fandom with all the work you put into the Depot. Do you find yourself caring more about the team? You have much more invested now than you did before. Does the fandom take a back seat to professional concerns? Do you find yourself more critical of the decisions made? Does it affect you a little more or less if the team succeeds or fails than it did as a regular fan? We get this question every once in a while. I will tell you this, Brad. I am not the same level of fanatical fan that I was before I started Depot back in 2007, 2008. I do, and I don't know exactly it wasn't like I woke up one morning and became less I mean, I obviously still can, and what I mean by that is I don't die. It doesn't ruin my day when the Steelers win or lose like it used to do in the early days. So I'm a lot less fanatical. Now, obviously, look, I root for this team every game. I want them to win every game. I still occasionally yell at the TV, "Oh, come on," that kind of thing there. But as I progress through this thing, and I know Alex, our job is to educate and inform and to be as objective as possible when analyzing everything about this team. When it comes down to even picking 53-man rosters, we pick 53-man rosters on what we think the team will do, not necessarily what we would do. The draft the same way. We approach the draft and what we think the Steelers will do more so than what we would do in those situations. We try to break down the games as objective. We try to break down the play of all the players as objective as possible. And within that, you're more concerned about getting the objective, especially post game, the content up after the game, more so than you're concerned about, damn it, they lost, or hooray, they won, kind of thing. So it does, at least in my instance, and I'm sure Alex feels the same way, it does take away the fanboy instance some. Now, look, you could probably ask a selection of listeners to this show. Some will say you guys are too much fanboys, and then another group will say you guys are way too critical of this team. It's just that's the way it is, probably with any show. But we try to toe the line as right in the middle as we can throughout this. But without a doubt, Brad, you're less concerned about the wins and losses, and you're more concerned about the who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Yeah, that's well said, Dave. I generally agree. My fandom, the intensity of it probably has been dulled in a sense, but it's also increased in the sense of you live and breathe the Steelers. You feel like you know the team every which way, inside and out. And so a lot of things just get looked through that work, depot perspective. Okay, what's the story here? What's the angle? How are we going to approach this? Should we write about it or should we pass on it? That kind of stuff. I mean, it's really just kind of been it's not, this isn't a criticism, but it's just a different lens that I look through the Steelers, a little more about just from a site standpoint and how this will play into the site and what to write about and that kind of stuff. But you still get excited when the team wins. It's also good for business when the team wins. It's, people think, oh, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's bad, then people will come to the site. It's the opposite in sports. I mean, you can get certainly some small momentary bump whenever the team does bad, or maybe some scathing article could do well. But generally speaking, the site does its best whenever the team does its best, because people do not want to go back and read about how bad the team is and why they lost the game. They want to read about the wins and the successes and the good things about the organization. So that, it's just a different hat that I wear. It's a little bit more the work and a little more the business side of it. How is this going to relate to the site? More than just the pure fandom hat. But listen, I'm still excited whenever somebody does. Well, I still love the little guy. Whenever a little guy, unheralded player makes a big play, it's always a lot of fun.
Hey, look, I still catch the St. Vincent virus. I still sometimes that maybe I get too positive in certain steps throughout this team, especially early on in training camp. And it's happened since the Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith trade and all like that. I've found myself kind of wondering, maybe this team might be better than 9-8 or 10-7 this year. I still catch that fan virus, that buzz, that maybe this team's going to be a little bit better than what I think it is, or most people think. And I still have the negative major media foolish take. I can't believe so and so said that about the Steelers, and try to shoot those down either in podcast form or on Twitter or whatnot. So I still get that. I mean, I still have that part of the fandom in me. I still catch the bug every year when this team reports to training camp.
Yeah, I do too. I think one way to sum it up, for example, the Minka Fitzpatrick trade, my reaction was initially the fan head of, oh my God, this is crazy. They're getting Ramsey, they're getting Jonnu Smith, they're trading Minka Fitzpatrick. But then your next thought is, okay, who's writing this story? How are we titling this story? Am I getting this on Facebook? How are we getting reaction posts. What post should we write about the trade? What are the details of the trade must be written about? So that's kind of how it goes. It's still probably fan first, but then immediately right behind that is the depot. How will we present this to the reader hat?
Is my office littered in memorabilia? Do I wear jerseys? Do I wear hats out and all like that? No, I don't. I mean, I don't. I'm older now too. So, Alex, do you still wear Steelers stuff out?
Not a lot. I don't wear it at training camp, and that's on purpose because I think from my standpoint of trying to report and write about the team, I don't want to, there's a conflict of interest there. I think if I wore Steelers gear, I have some Steelers stuff down in my kind of family room, man cave-ish, but it's not even a man cave. But yeah, I'm a big baby when it comes to t-shirts. Like they got to be soft, they got to be tagless. So I have a very specific set of t-shirts. You can probably relate to the OCD nature of that, of clothing.
Look, we're still fans. We're just not, probably how most would envision because of what we do, the level of fan. And once again, it doesn't ruin our night or our day or our week when they lose. We're more into, okay, well, let's start writing about why and the how and going. I mean, we know everything there is about the team, so we're fanatical in that aspect there. But you do lose a sense of fandom, I think, if you do this right.
Yeah, like I said, I just think the depot hat, the work hat comes right along with it. When they win, it's like exciting because, oh, great, they won. I'm super happy they won. But then my next thought is, okay, it's going to be a great week for the site. It's going to be buzzing. Like they're attached at the hip, the fan hat and the work hat.
All right, Brad, appreciate you listening and reading and writing an email along with that. So I think that's a good place to stop, Alex. We're about an hour and a half into this. I don't see any really major emails in here to get to. So you and I will be back Tuesday evening for another special edition of the Terrible Podcast. We will have the YouTube live stream later tonight at 7 Eastern. You can find that by going to YouTube and just searching out Alex Kozora's YouTube channel. We'll talk with the fan base for an hour and answer questions there. So in the meantime, as usual, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, we got the ad-free version. Follow the directions that way on the site. So until later this evening, if you attend the live stream, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.